This is Jody Pfarr with Pfarr Consulting. If you, your agency, or your community are working on inequity issues, sometimes it is helpful if we look at all 18 sets first before we hone into one. So as you can see, we have 18 sets, 18 places where in our societal system, we normalize one thing over the other. And when you're part of the normalized, what happens is our societal system gears towards the normalized group, which means that you have benefits because you have an entire societal system geared towards you, which then means that you just have different experiences. And it's not about better or worse, but they're different experiences. And so when we look at these sets, for example, right-handed, left-handed, talk to a person, now I'm right-handed. I didn't even know that things weren't geared to some folks because things just work for me. That's a benefit of being part of the societal system. I go sit in an auditorium and I flip the chair. Guess what? It flips the way I need it to work. But my niece, left-handed, she's like, why am I paying all this money to go to college and I can't get a chair that works for me, right? You hunt, gun, left, right, geared for right-handed. But safety on the right side. Reloading a weapon often on the right side. In a car, in America, ashtray shifting, all geared for right side. But if you're left-handed, all of a sudden those things weren't geared for you and you're adjusting. And many times people don't notice the adjustments. Now it's not about worse, right, better, wrong. It's about we've had different experiences. So when myself and a left-handed person sit down, it helps if we've spent some time looking at all 18 sets and thinking about where have I been part of the normalized, where haven't I, and how has that affected my perception? How has that affected my experience? I was recently presenting to a community, and when I came in, behind the oatmeal, there was a bowl. And it was a bowl of hot bacon grease. Now, for some of you right there, you just went, oh, see, human nature. When you and I hear or see something that we have never experienced before, then oftentimes we'll judge and react. And so we got to take a step back from that. If you and I want to work together, whether it's in our communities, whether it's as individual, whether it's within our agencies, to make sure that there's equality, that everybody here, every triangle listed up here has equal access. It means we have to understand where we've been part of the norm, where haven't we? We want to start to think about how does that affect our experience and our perception. And so go back to that oatmeal with the hot bacon grease. There was one generation, look at the age triangle. One generation came in and saw that hot bacon grease behind the oatmeal and said, about time you got oatmeal right. And one generation came in and said, oh my gosh, that's a heart attack on a plate. Well, the generation that thought it was a heart attack on the plate was the generation that had been exposed to a lot of knowledge. And they know that that may contribute to health-related issues. And that was people under the age of 30. They were like, oh, but people older, especially in their 50s, 60s, and 70s. See, this was what I forgot to mention to you. This was an impoverished neighborhood. And so they grew up in poverty, many of the people that came in the door. And if you ever grow up in poverty, sometimes there's not enough food. And if you've ever had hunger pains, you ain't never forgot them. And so oatmeal would fill you. But oatmeal with hot bacon grease on, oh, that would quote unquote stick to your ribs. That meant you weren't going to have hunger pains all day. So when the generations that had experienced poverty, had experienced hunger pains, when they came in and saw that hot bacon grease, they were delighted because to them, that was a warm thought. That was a good memory. Their perception of it is this is good. But for others that hadn't experienced poverty to that extreme, who have experienced a lot more knowledge, they were thinking that is a heart attack waiting to happen. And it's not about one of those groups being better or worse or right or wrong, but they have different experiences. And we want to look at these groups and how do these groups operate different. So for example, middle class. If you grow up in middle class, you ever notice you go to a middle class party, people often ask, well, first of all, you ever go to a middle class party? What's the first question middle class many across the United States will do? they're very concerned that you have a beverage. You ever notice that, right? You go, Jody, you want something to drink? No, I'm good, thank you. No, seriously, you want something? No, I'm good, thank you. No, seriously, you want? Okay, I'll take a glass of water. It'll bring you happiness, right? And so then when you start mingling, if I don't know anybody at this middle class party and I start mingling, what's one of the first questions I ask you? What do? You ever notice? The bigger your career, the bigger the O in response. Because if I say, well, I work at the local hospital, then people go, oh, that's nice, that's good, right? But they'll follow up with that and keep talking. And they'll say, well, Jody, what do you do at the local hospital? I'm a medical doctor. Oh, see, what triangles did I just show them now? Formal education, medical doctor, I'm probably upper middle class, right? And then if they keep talking, they go, well, Jody, do you specialize? Oh, yes, sir, I'm a neurosurgeon. Right? The bigger the career, the bigger the O. But in poverty, let me give you some words of advice. If you go to a poverty party tonight, don't ask what nobody does. That's not going to be the question. In poverty, it's relationship based. Who do you know? If I'm having a party in my neighborhood, it's a very working class neighborhood, and in my family still have some friends and family in poverty. If we have a party and someone comes in and I don't know who that person is, I got an eye on them, and I'm like, yeah. And then I'm asking my people, who's that? And then my people don't know who you are. I got two eyes on you. Until somebody looks over and goes, oh no, that's Bobby's new girl. Oh, hey, okay, girl, what's up? How you doing, right? And so in poverty, it operates different. So it's not about better or worse, right or wrong, but we have different experiences based on these triangles. So if you're individually, you're trying to work on inequity issues, or your institution or your community, or you're trying to make policies to ensure that everyone has access, come check out the work that we do, because many times it helps if folks first look at all 18 sets, start to identify where have they been part of the norm, where they haven't, start to process and realize that that has affected how they perceive things. And when we do that training, people can then start to have conversations and start to open up and hear about what other people perceive and experience. That allows us to have a rich dialogue, because that allows us to have all these voices, all these triangles at the table when we work on inequity issues, not just a couple groups represented. Everybody feels like their voice is getting heard, and that allows us to have solutions where all the triangles' voices were at the table. That works well for our communities long term. That makes effective policy change. Check us out.